Chosen one, there is something God wants you to understand before anything else. The recent action you took was not invisible. It was not overlooked. It was not forgotten. In fact, what you did caught heaven's attention in a way you may not fully realize. Many people believe that only large accomplishments matter to God. They think He only notices major sacrifices, dramatic acts of faith, or extraordinary achievements. But throughout your journey, God has been watching every step you have taken. He has seen the prayers nobody heard. He has seen the tears nobody noticed. He has seen the moments when you chose faith instead of fear. He has seen the times when you kept going even when everything inside you wanted to quit. And recently, there was something different. There was a decision, there was an act of obedience, there was a step of faith, there was a choice that required trust. Perhaps it seemed small from your perspective, perhaps nobody applauded you for it, perhaps nobody even knew it happened. But God saw it. The truth is that heaven often measures significance differently than the world does. The world celebrates visible success. God pays attention to faithfulness. The world notices outcomes. God notices obedience. The world focuses on results. God focuses on the condition of the heart. That means an action that appears ordinary on the outside can be incredibly powerful in the spiritual realm. Maybe you forgave someone who hurt you. Maybe you let go of a relationship that was pulling you away from your purpose. Maybe you remained faithful during a season of waiting. Maybe you chose integrity when dishonesty would have been easier. Maybe you continued praying when it felt like nothing was changing. Maybe you trusted God when every circumstance encouraged you to doubt. Whatever it was, God noticed. And what makes your recent action so important is not merely what you did. It is what your action revealed. It revealed trust. It revealed growth. It revealed maturity. It revealed faith. Many people talk about faith, but few act on it when circumstances become difficult. It is easy to trust God when answers arrive quickly. It is easy to believe when blessings are visible. It is easy to remain hopeful when everything is going according to plan. But what about when answers are delayed? What about when the future feels uncertain? What about when you cannot see evidence that anything is changing? That is where true faith is revealed, and that is exactly why your recent action mattered. You acted despite uncertainty. You moved despite questions. You trusted despite the lack of visible proof. That kind of faith always matters. Many chosen ones underestimate the impact of a single act of obedience. They assume that because they did not see immediate results, nothing significant happened. But God's work often begins before results become visible. Seeds are planted before harvests appear. Foundations are built before structures rise. Preparation happens before opportunities arrive. The same principle applies spiritually. The moment you chose obedience, something shifted. The moment you trusted God, something moved. The moment you acted in faith, heaven responded. Not because God was suddenly aware of you. He has always been aware of you. Not because He suddenly began caring about your situation. He has always cared, but because your action demonstrated readiness for what He has been preparing. Readiness is important. Many people pray for blessings they are not prepared to receive. Many people ask for opportunities they are not prepared to handle. Many people seek miracles while resisting the growth required to sustain them. God understands this. That is why He often waits until faith matures before releasing certain blessings. Your recent action may have been evidence that growth has taken place, evidence that lessons have been learned. evidence that your heart has become prepared for a new season. Think about how far you have come. There were times when you might have responded differently. There were times when fear would have controlled your decisions. There were times when doubt would have stopped you. There were times when frustration would have caused you to quit. But something changed. You responded differently this time. You trusted differently this time. You acted differently this time. That growth did not happen by accident. God has been developing it within you through every lesson, every challenge, and every season of preparation. And now He wants you to understand that your faithfulness has not gone unnoticed. Even if nobody else understands the significance of what you did, heaven understands. Even if nobody else celebrates your obedience, heaven recognizes it. Even if nobody else sees the sacrifice involved, God sees it clearly. That is why you should never underestimate the power of a faithful decision. You should never underestimate the value of obedience. You should never underestimate what God can do through one act of genuine trust. Because the step you recently took was more than a simple action, it was a declaration of faith, and heaven responded to it in ways that are already beginning to set a miracle in motion. Now that you understand your recent act of faith caught heaven's attention, there is another truth God wants you to see. What seemed small in your eyes was far more significant than you realize. Many chosen ones struggle with this because they measure their actions according to what they can immediately see. If the action feels ordinary, they assume it has little value. If there is no instant reward, they assume nothing important happened. If other people fail to recognize it, they conclude it was insignificant. But God's perspective is different. He does not evaluate things the way people do. He sees beyond appearances. He sees beyond public recognition. He sees beyond visible results. Most importantly, He sees the spiritual significance behind every decision you make. That is why an action that appears small on the surface can create a powerful impact in ways that remain invisible for a season. Think about a seed. A seed appears small. It appears insignificant. If someone looked only at its size, they might never imagine what it is capable of becoming. Yet hidden within that tiny seed is the potential for growth, abundance, and transformation. The same principle applies to faith. Many of God's greatest works begin with small acts of obedience, a simple decision, a quiet prayer, a moment of forgiveness, a step of trust, a choice to remain faithful. These actions may seem ordinary in the moment, but spiritually they carry tremendous weight. The reason is simple. God is not only looking at the action itself, He is looking at what the action reveals about your heart. When you obey despite uncertainty, you reveal trust. When you remain faithful despite delays, you reveal perseverance. When you choose integrity despite temptation, you reveal character. When you continue believing despite obstacles, you reveal faith. Those qualities matter deeply to God. In fact, they often matter more than the visible action itself. Many people are waiting for dramatic opportunities to prove their faithfulness. They believe they will trust God when bigger blessings arrive. They believe they will be obedient when greater responsibilities appear. They believe they will demonstrate faith when more favorable circumstances exist. But God often tests faith through smaller moments first. The seemingly ordinary decisions are often preparing you for extraordinary opportunities. The recent action you took may have felt small because it was only one decision, only one prayer, only one act of obedience, only one step forward, yet spiritually, It represented much more than that. It represented growth. It represented maturity. It represented a willingness to trust God when certainty was unavailable. That is why heaven responded. Many chosen ones miss this truth because they become obsessed with immediate outcomes. They assume that if they cannot see results right away, then their actions did not matter. But spiritual movement often begins long before physical evidence appears. Think about how many things in life require time before results become visible. Preparation happens before success. Training happens before achievement. Growth happens before harvest. The same is true spiritually. The moment you acted in faith, something was set into motion. You may not see it yet. You may not fully understand it yet, but that does not mean nothing is happening. God is often working behind the scenes in ways that exceed human understanding. One faithful decision can position you for future opportunities. One act of obedience can redirect your path. One moment of trust can open doors you never imagined. The remarkable thing is that many people never discover how important their small actions were until much later. They look back and realize that one conversation changed everything. One decision changed everything. One prayer changed everything. One act of faith changed everything. At the time, they had no idea how significant it was. But later, they could clearly see God's hand at work. Perhaps that is exactly what is happening in your life right now. Perhaps the action you recently took was not as small as it appeared. Perhaps it represented a turning point. Perhaps it revealed a level of readiness that God has been developing within you. Perhaps it demonstrated that you are prepared for something greater than before. God often entrusts larger blessings to those who remain faithful in smaller matters, not because He wants to limit people, but because faithfulness reveals readiness. It demonstrates responsibility. It shows that the heart has been prepared. That is why you should never underestimate the power of obedience. Never underestimate the importance of choosing faith over fear. Never underestimate the value of trusting God when circumstances make trust difficult. The world may overlook those moments. Other people may fail to recognize them. Even you may be tempted to dismiss them. But heaven does not dismiss them. God sees every act of faith. God sees every sacrifice. God sees every moment of obedience, and He understands the significance behind actions that appear small to everyone else. That is why you must continue trusting Him, even when results are not immediately visible. Because the action that seemed ordinary in your eyes carried extraordinary significance in the spiritual realm, and God is already using it to prepare the way for what comes next. As you begin to realize that what seemed small was actually spiritually significant, God wants you to understand something even deeper. The miracle that is being released into your life is not simply connected to one recent action. It is connected to a pattern of faithfulness that you have demonstrated over time. Many people focus on a single moment and overlook the journey that led to it. They see one act of obedience. They see one decision. They see one step of faith. But God sees the entire story. He sees every prayer you continued to pray when answers were delayed. He sees every time you remained faithful when circumstances tempted you to give up. He sees every moment you trusted Him despite uncertainty. He sees every sacrifice, every act of patience, every choice to keep believing when visible evidence was nowhere to be found. Nothing has escaped His attention. That is why you must understand that God is not only responding to what happened recently. He is responding to the consistency that has been developing within you for a long time. Consistency is powerful. Anyone can have faith for a day. Anyone can remain hopeful for a moment. Anyone can trust when everything is going well. But maintaining faith through difficult seasons requires something deeper. It requires endurance. It requires commitment. It requires trust that survives disappointment. Many chosen ones do not realize how much they have grown because growth often happens slowly. They remember the challenges, they remember the waiting, they remember the frustrations, but they forget to recognize how faithfully they continued moving forward despite those difficulties. Perhaps there were times when you felt exhausted, times when you questioned whether your prayers were making a difference. Times when you wondered if God was still working, times when you considered giving up because progress seemed invisible. Yet you kept going, you continued praying, you continued believing, you continued trusting, you continued showing up. That matters more than you realize. Many people stop just before their breakthrough because they become discouraged by the waiting process. They assume that because results are delayed, nothing is happening. But God's timing is different from human timing. While people focus on immediate results, God focuses on long-term preparation. While people seek quick answers, God develops lasting faith. While people want instant rewards, God builds character capable of sustaining greater blessings. That is exactly what has been happening in your life. Every season of waiting was developing patience. Every challenge was developing strength. Every disappointment was developing wisdom. Every obstacle was developing resilience. The miracle being prepared is not arriving in isolation. It is arriving after a period of preparation. And that preparation has been taking place through your consistency. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have about divine favor is believing it appears suddenly without a process. In reality, many blessings arrive after long seasons of unseen development. Think about a tree. People celebrate the fruit when it appears. But long before the fruit becomes visible, roots are growing beneath the surface. The roots receive little attention. They receive little recognition, yet without them, the fruit could never exist. Your faithfulness has been developing roots. Your trust has been developing roots. Your perseverance has been developing roots. The miracle God is preparing requires those roots. Without them, the blessing could not be sustained. This is why God values consistency so highly. Consistency reveals commitment. Consistency reveals character. Consistency demonstrates that your faith is not dependent upon circumstances. Anyone can trust when blessings are obvious, but continuing to trust during seasons of uncertainty reveals a mature faith. That mature faith is what God has been developing within you. Perhaps there were moments when nobody understood what you were going through. Perhaps there were moments when you felt alone in your struggle. Perhaps there were moments when it seemed as though your efforts were producing no results at all. Yet even during those seasons, God was watching. He was observing your response. He was observing your persistence. He was observing your willingness to keep moving forward, and every faithful response was adding to the foundation he was building. The remarkable thing is that God often rewards people in ways they never expected. The blessing may not arrive through the door you imagined. The opportunity may not appear in the form you anticipated. The breakthrough may happen differently than you planned. But God's rewards are never limited by human expectations. He knows exactly what you need. He knows exactly when you need it. And He knows exactly how to bring it into your life. That is why you should never assume your faithfulness has been wasted. Never assume your waiting has been meaningless. Never assume your perseverance has gone unnoticed. Every prayer mattered. Every act of trust mattered. Every moment of obedience mattered. Every decision to keep believing mattered. The God who saw your struggle also saw your faithfulness. The God who witnessed your challenges also witnessed your perseverance. The God who watched you endure difficult seasons was also preparing something greater beyond those seasons. And now the consistency you demonstrated through every challenge is becoming part of the reason heaven is releasing a blessing that has been prepared for you all along. As you begin to understand that God has been honoring your consistency and faithfulness, there is something exciting He wants you to know. What He is setting in motion may soon become visible in ways you never expected. The reason is simple: unexpected doors are about to open. Many people imagine that God's blessings always arrive through the paths they have carefully planned. They expect opportunities to appear in familiar ways. They assume breakthroughs will come through the exact doors they have been knocking on. But God often works differently. His ways are greater than human expectations. His timing is different from human timing. His methods often surprise the very people He is blessing. That is why many chosen ones miss signs of progress. They become so focused on one specific outcome that they fail to notice the new opportunities God is creating around them. They keep staring at one closed door while God is preparing a better one nearby. They keep focusing on one path while God is creating another. They keep looking at what did not happen while God is arranging what is about to happen. God is saying that because of your faithfulness, movement has already begun behind the scenes. You may not see it yet. You may not hear evidence of it yet. You may not have received confirmation yet. But that does not mean nothing is happening. In fact, some of God's greatest works take place long before they become visible. Think about how many things in life develop in secret before they appear in public. Roots grow beneath the ground before a tree becomes visible. Preparation takes place before opportunity arrives. Plans are arranged before results appear. The same principle applies spiritually. God has been arranging circumstances. He has been positioning people. He has been creating connections. He has been opening pathways that you cannot yet see. And when the timing is right, what was hidden will begin to reveal itself. One reason unexpected doors are so powerful is because they remind us that God is not limited by our circumstances. People often assume their breakthrough depends on a specific person, a specific opportunity, a specific situation, a specific timeline, but God is not restricted by any of those things. If one door closes, He can open another. If one opportunity disappears, He can create a better one. If one path becomes blocked, He can provide a completely new direction. That is why you must resist the temptation to become discouraged by what has not worked out. Some of the things that left your life were never meant to carry you into your next season. Some of the opportunities that disappeared were not aligned with your purpose. Some of the delays you experienced were protecting you from outcomes you could not see. At the time, those losses felt painful. At the time, those closed doors felt disappointing. At the time, those setbacks felt confusing. But God sees the bigger picture. He understands what belongs in your future and what does not. This is why faith remains so important. Faith allows you to trust God's plan even when you cannot yet see the results. Faith allows you to believe that opportunities are being prepared even during seasons of waiting. Faith allows you to remain hopeful when circumstances appear unchanged. Many chosen ones are closer to breakthrough breakthrough than they realize. The challenge is that breakthrough often arrives quietly at first. A conversation, a connection, an opportunity, a new idea, a sudden realization, a chance encounter, a door that seemed impossible suddenly opens. Looking back, it appears obvious, but while it is happening, many people fail to recognize the significance. That is why you must stay spiritually alert, stay attentive, stay grateful, stay expectant, not because you know exactly how God will move, but because you know He is moving. The opportunities coming into your life may not look the way you imagined. The solutions may appear from unexpected places. The blessings may arrive through people you never anticipated. The answers may come through circumstances you never planned. That is often how God works. He exceeds expectations. He creates possibilities where none seem to exist. He turns limitations into opportunities. He transforms obstacles into stepping stones. And He does it in ways that reveal His power rather than human ability. Perhaps you have been wondering when things will change. Perhaps you have been asking God for a sign that progress is being made. Perhaps you have been questioning whether your faithfulness has truly mattered. If so, remember this: God does not ask for faithfulness without purpose. He does not ask for trust without reason. He does not lead people through seasons of preparation only to leave them where they started. Every lesson has been leading somewhere. Every act of obedience has been positioning you. Every challenge has been strengthening you. Every step of faith has been preparing you. And now those preparations are creating space for opportunities that could not have appeared before. That is why you must keep your heart open and your faith strong, because God is already aligning circumstances behind the scenes, and the unexpected doors He is preparing to open may lead to blessings greater than anything you have imagined. As God begins aligning opportunities and opening doors that were once hidden from view, there is something important He wants you to guard against. Right before a breakthrough, doubt often becomes louder. Right before an answer arrives, fear often tries to regain control. Right before a blessing becomes visible, uncertainty often attempts to convince you that nothing is happening. This is why God is saying, do not doubt what He is already setting in motion. Many chosen ones unknowingly sabotage their own peace because they become focused on what they cannot see. They look at their current circumstances and assume that if there is no visible evidence, then there must be no progress. They examine their situation day after day, searching for signs of change, and when immediate results fail to appear, discouragement begins to grow. But God's work does not stop simply because you cannot see it. His plans do not pause because visible evidence has not yet arrived. His promises do not become less real because circumstances remain unchanged for a season. One of the greatest tests of faith is learning to trust God's activity before it becomes visible. Anyone can believe after the breakthrough arrives. Anyone can trust once the miracle is fully revealed. Anyone can remain confident when answers are obvious, but faith operates differently. Faith believes before proof appears. Faith trusts before results become visible. Faith remains steady while God works behind the scenes. That is exactly where many people struggle. They want certainty before they trust. They want guarantees before they move forward. They want visible confirmation before they believe. Yet God often asks people to continue trusting even when complete understanding is unavailable. Think about your own journey. How many times has God already proven His faithfulness? How many obstacles has He already helped you overcome? How many prayers has He already answered? How many difficult seasons has He already carried you through? The evidence is there. The challenge is remembering it when uncertainty tries to distract you. Fear has a way of shortening memory. When fear takes control, people forget previous victories, they forget previous breakthroughs, they forget previous miracles. They begin acting as though the current challenge is greater than every challenge God has already brought them through. But that is not true. The same God who guided you before is guiding you now. The same God who provided before can provide again. The same God who opened doors before can open new ones. Nothing about His power has changed. Nothing about His faithfulness has changed. Nothing about His ability to work in your life has changed. The only thing that has changed is that you are standing in a season where the results have not fully appeared yet. And that is often where doubt attempts to enter. Doubt will whisper that nothing is happening. Doubt will tell you that you have waited too long. Doubt will encourage you to abandon your expectations. Doubt will convince you that God's promises apply to others but not to you. But doubt is a poor guide. It focuses on limitations instead of possibilities. It focuses on obstacles instead of opportunities. It focuses on temporary circumstances instead of eternal truths. God is calling you to resist that mindset. Not by pretending challenges do not exist, not by ignoring reality, but by remembering that reality includes more than what you currently see. There are things happening behind the scenes, there are circumstances being arranged, there are opportunities being prepared, there are connections being established, there are answers moving closer. Just because they have not arrived yet does not mean they are absent. Many of God's greatest blessings require unseen preparation before they become visible. A harvest develops long before it appears above the ground. A building is designed before construction begins. A path is cleared before travelers can walk it. Likewise, God often prepares breakthroughs long before people recognize them. This is why patience remains so important. Patience is not passive waiting. Patience is confident trust. It is the ability to remain steady while God completes work that has not yet become visible. It is the decision to continue believing when circumstances tempt you to quit. It is the choice to maintain hope when results seem delayed. And that kind of patience creates peace. When you trust God, you no longer feel the need to control every outcome. When you trust God, you no longer panic over every delay. When you trust God, you can rest knowing that His timing remains perfect even when your schedule feels different. The blessing that is coming does not require fear. The opportunity that is approaching does not require panic. The miracle being prepared does not require constant worry. It requires trust. Trust that God knows what He is doing. Trust that His timing is intentional. Trust that He is working, even when you cannot yet see the evidence. So refuse to let doubt steal your confidence. Refuse to let fear dictate your expectations. Refuse to let temporary uncertainty convince you that God has stopped moving. Because the very fact that you cannot yet see everything may simply mean that God is still completing the work, and the breakthrough He has already set in motion is drawing closer with every passing day. As you reach this point, after understanding that your faith caught heaven's attention, that your obedience carried spiritual significance, that your consistency has been preparing you for greater things, that new doors are opening, and that God is already moving behind the scenes, there is one final instruction He wants you to embrace. Prepare yourself to receive what you have been praying for. Many people spend years praying for blessings, but never prepare themselves to receive them. They pray for opportunities. They pray for breakthroughs. They pray for healing. They pray for provision. They pray for miracles. Yet when God begins moving, they are often caught off guard because they expected the blessing but neglected the preparation. God is not only interested in giving you something new. He is interested in preparing you to steward it well. That is why preparation is so important. The miracle being released into your life is not merely about receiving something. It is also about becoming the person capable of handling what God is providing. Think about how God has been working throughout your journey. Every challenge taught a lesson. Every delay developed patience. Every obstacle strengthened your faith. Every disappointment increased your wisdom. Those experiences were not random, they were preparation. God has been shaping you long before the blessing became visible. Many chosen ones assume preparation ends when the breakthrough arrives. In reality, preparation continues right up until the moment the opportunity appears. That is why God is encouraging you to stay ready. Stay mentally ready. Stay spiritually ready. Stay emotionally ready. Stay prepared for the possibility that things can change faster than you expect. One reason people miss opportunities is because they become too comfortable with waiting. After a long season of delays, they begin expecting delays. After a long season of struggle, they begin expecting struggle. After a long season of closed doors, they begin expecting disappointment. Eventually, they stop anticipating positive change. Their expectations become limited by past experiences. But God is calling you to adopt a different mindset. He is calling you to expect His goodness, not because life will become perfect, not because challenges will disappear forever, but because He is capable of doing far more than your current circumstances suggest. The blessing that is approaching may require a different level of confidence. It may require greater responsibility. It may require new habits. It may require a willingness to step into unfamiliar territory. That is why preparation matters. Imagine praying for an opportunity but refusing to leave your comfort zone. Imagine asking God for growth while resisting change. Imagine seeking a breakthrough while remaining attached to old limitations. God wants to bring new things into your life, but He also wants your mindset to align with what He is providing. Many people focus entirely on external blessings while neglecting internal growth. They want the reward without the development. They want the opportunity without the responsibility. They want the miracle without the transformation. But God's greatest blessings often involve both. He blesses the situation while also growing the person. He opens the door while strengthening the character required to walk through it. He provides the opportunity while developing the wisdom needed to manage it. That is what He has been doing in your life. The person you are today is not the same person you were years ago. You have learned lessons. You have gained strength. You have developed resilience. You have matured through challenges. You have grown through experiences. Those changes are important because they are preparing you for what comes next. Another part of preparation involves gratitude. Gratitude keeps your heart aligned with God. It reminds you of His faithfulness. It helps you recognize blessings that already exist while remaining open to blessings that are still coming. People who live with gratitude are often better prepared to recognize opportunities when they appear. Instead of focusing on what is missing, they appreciate what God has already done. That perspective creates expectation. And expectation is powerful. Expectation is not wishful thinking. Expectation is confident anticipation rooted in trust. It is believing that God is still working. It is believing that He remains faithful. It is believing that His plans continue unfolding even when every detail has not yet been revealed. This does not mean demanding specific outcomes. It means remaining open to whatever God chooses to do. Sometimes the blessing arrives exactly as expected. Sometimes it arrives in a completely different form. Either way, God's wisdom exceeds human understanding. That is why flexibility matters. Stay open, stay teachable. Stay willing to follow where God leads. The miracle He is releasing may not look exactly like the miracle you imagined. The opportunity may arrive through an unexpected path. The breakthrough may come from a direction you never considered. But if God is the source, you can trust the outcome. As you move forward, refuse to allow fear, doubt, or past disappointments to limit your expectations. Refuse to believe that yesterday's struggles determine tomorrow's possibilities. Refuse to assume that because blessings were delayed, they will never arrive. God has been preparing you. God has been strengthening you. God has been positioning you. And now He is asking you to remain ready for what He is bringing into your life. Because the faith you demonstrated, the obedience you chose, and the consistency you maintained have all been preparing you not only to receive a miracle, but to fully step into the new season God has already begun unfolding before you.